my series of solo female superhero reviews. If you've been following my channel or you've been following me on Facebook or Twitter for the last few months, you know that leading up to Wonder Woman, I decided it'd be fun to take a look back at the other female failures that have happened in cinema before. So right out of the bat, I'm going to start off with Catwoman, my absolute favorite comic book film of all time. I debated for a long time whether I even wanted to do this one. I thought about skipping it. I thought about coming up with some excuse, but then I was like, you know what? You made a commitment. You said you would do it. I promised I would do it, and I rewatched it. And because the movie made me hate myself as a person, and it made me hate my eyes and my ears for actually subjecting myself to this type of cinematic waterboarding, you might actually see Peter Griffin a couple of times in this video blow his head off for no reason, because that's the equivalent of sitting through this movie and actually having to pay attention to all of the flaws in it. So this movie came out in 2004, right around the superhero craze when it was beginning to pick up in a really big way. This movie stars Halle Berry, who's, you know, she's Halle Berry. I mean, she's Halle Berry. Seriously, even when people defend this movie to me, they go, ah, well, it wasn't that bad. At least Halle Berry looks really good. Here's the thing, I've told you guys this before, I don't give a shit that she looks good. Someone looking good is not enough to save me from an hour and a half of shitty filmmaking. Halle Berry looked good going into the movie. I don't really give a shit that she looked good in the movie. I expected that going in. What I didn't expect was for this movie to set female solo superhero movies back, I don't know, 50, 70 years or whatever. Or I guess 13 years, because now we're getting another legitimate solo superhero female movie in Wonder Woman this summer, so what are you gonna do? Either way, this movie stars Halle Berry, Benjamin Bratt, and the chick who does the voice of Lois from Family Guy. This movie basically is the character of Catwoman without anything closely resembling the origin or the backstory of the actual character of Catwoman from the comics. And I know what you're thinking, hey Hannibal, don't be too harsh on it, you know, you could take some liberties with the source material, you could change some shit. To which I would say, true, but if you change the shit, at least make the shit not look like, you know, shit. So this movie is about Patience Phillips. She is a plucky, mild-mannered, really shy girl who works at this beauty advertising company. She eventually stumbles onto something dangerous when she tries to turn in a project for her boss, and then she finds out that there's this big scandal underneath the surface of this company that she works for, and then she gets killed by the people who are covering up this scandal at her job, and then she gets resurrected by a CGI cat and his CGI minions, and then she gets cat powers, and then the movie is basically about her trying to uncover the scandal inside this business, this company, this beauty advertising firm led by Sharon Stone, who, my god, they dragged Sharon Stone into this. I could tell within the first 5 minutes that I wanted to turn this shit off. The movie starts with this really lazy ass monologue and this montage of cats, because, you know, cats, it's just cats, it's just a whole bunch of cats. You find out later in the movie that it's really just about one cat. There's just one magic cat that has survived for thousands upon thousands of years and decides to randomly give cat powers to people, you know, because why not? No, seriously, I watched this movie and I don't really even have a concrete reason for why this cat decides to give these cat powers to people. Maybe it's because it wants to make certain women feel free, or maybe not, I don't know. It also is unclear if you have to die to get these powers or not. They never really explain that in the fucking movie. But again, I'm watching a shit show. Why should I expect that anything in this movie is gonna make any sense? What I can tell you about Patience Phillips and her character played by Halle Berry is that she's basically Clark Kent in Halle Berry's body. They go out of their way to show how clumsy she is. She's always falling over, she's always tripping, she's really bumbling, she's really awkward. And whereas with Clark Kent, you kind of get it because he's trying to, you know, pull off that persona of Clark Kent to try to trick people into thinking that he's not Superman. Here, it's just her. Like, her first scene in the movie, she basically knocks over 7 people trying to get into her job. And she's like that pretty much the entire movie, except for when she gets her cat powers. And at that point, I don't really know what happens to her character. It's so hard to gravitate towards her because on one hand, she's Patience Phillips. She's this really mild-mannered girl who's pretty but doesn't know it, you know, kind of in a Devil Wears Prada type of way. And then she gets the cat powers, and then she's doing all this weird freaky shit, and she seems okay with it, and she starts getting more of a dangerous, sexy, aggressive persona. She's a less sluttier version of Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer back in the day as Catwoman, she was a really big slut in that movie. I mean, that's pretty much all she was in the movie. She was a slut for Batman to get distracted by. This movie, Catwoman, she's played so over the top and hammy and slutty. I mean, she's pretty much the equivalent of licking an STD off of your chin type of nasty in certain parts. And then she goes from that to back to timid, to back to being aggressive, sexy, to back to being fucking over-the-top hammy, and it's just really hard to get a handle on what her character actually is in this fucking movie. Everything about this script is so transparent and see-through. Like, you can see everything coming from a mile away. In the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, they spoil exactly what the movie is going to be about. First 5 minutes, you find out that Patience Phillips dies at a certain point in this movie. You find out that she's going to die. Like she says in her first monologue, well, the day that I died is the day that it all began for me. To which point I go, oh, okay, so you're going to die later on in this movie and you're going to become Catwoman. Thanks for keeping me in suspense. The first scene, she's talking to her friend, and her friend is putting this weird beauty cream on her face, and then immediately, like randomly after that conversation is done where they're talking about this cream or whatever, and she just goes, oh, well, I have a headache, and, you know, my brain feels really tight and cranky. First of all, the dialogue is so shitty in this movie that I know for a fact that people don't describe their headaches as tight and cranky. Like, people just don't talk like that. But immediately I know that that's a plot point that the movie is going to reference. I'm like, oh, okay, well, she's not getting random headaches for no reason. It's obviously tied to that cream that she's putting on her face. So this is probably a big point that the movie is going to revolve around. And wouldn't you know it, I was right. I hate it when I'm right. And I was right a lot about this movie because this movie is a gigantic flaming pile of cow ordnance. And really, ordnance is just a euphemism for shit, because I say shit a lot when I'm talking about this movie. The script is really transparent. The dialogue is horrendous, like really, really bad. There's also a scene later on in the movie where Catwoman, she stops these jewel thieves from robbing this bank, and then she steals the jewels for herself. And then the next day it's like, oh, well, I'm Paige and I don't really want all these jewels. So she returns the jewels to the scene of the crime. Her generic love interest is there with another forensic investigator, and she returns them in a bag, and then she has a box full of cupcakes. Now her and Benjamin Bratt look at this box full of cupcakes for a really long time, like 5 seconds easy, and then she's like, cupcakes. What the who talks like that? Why would you need to announce to the world that it's cupcakes? It's like, do the writers of this movie think that we're so stupid that we're not going to recognize that there's a box of cupcakes in front of them? Oh, maybe we are. Maybe we're all certified retards for watching this movie. I don't know. Maybe they assumed that when they wrote this thing. The biggest place where this movie just drops the ball completely is the CGI and the action sequences. A lot of people are going to say, well, it's 2004, man, you shouldn't judge the CGI too harshly. I mean, back then, it wasn't the CGI that we're used to now. To which I would say, oh, but at that point, we had already had Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 and X-Men and X-Men 2 and a bunch of other good CGI comic book movies. So no, I'm not going to use that shit as an excuse. Bad CGI is just bad CGI. And this isn't just bad CGI. This is booty juice CGI. I mean, this shit is awful. For some reason, they turned Catwoman into this CGI computer character who just jumps off of buildings and is perfectly fine, and it looks so bad. But even that could be forgiven if the action scenes in general were pretty good, and this movie has what I like to call the Resident Evil syndrome. It's not quite as bad as Resident Evil. I mean, I didn't feel like vomiting or throwing up. I mean, I felt like killing myself after watching the movie, but I didn't feel like vomiting like I felt like after watching the action scenes in Resident Evil. The action scenes are so poorly cut together. I mean, it's just cut, and rinse and repeat. They speed the frames up so that you can barely see what's going on. They have to show you a whole bunch of different cuts happening at the same time. Not to mention, they also do this obnoxious thing where they do this circle jerk overhead camera motion where they have to show the entire scene spinning around in a circle until you just don't fucking want to watch it anymore. Everything in this movie is a complete fail. There is a pointless park sequence where she's playing basketball with her generic love interest. The only good thing about that part is that you actually get to see a close-up of Halle Berry's delicious booty. Again, I knew she had ass walking into the movie, so I don't care about that at this point. I haven't even really talked about the villain and how bad the action sequence is there at the end, and how the villain is not only completely telegraphed, but completely miscast. Sharon Stone, God bless you. Clusterfuck isn't even the right word to describe this thing. I mean, really, from every level on down, other than Halle Berry looks really good, every single level of this movie failed. The story is stupid and has a bunch of really shitty ass writing, like when Paige Phillips is trying to get into the building where she can turn in her art project because it's going to be late by a 12 midnight deadline or something. And then there's a door that says restricted access, and it says, hey, you can't go in here, authorized personnel only, except there's nobody guarding the door and the door is unlocked. So why the fuck even have that on the door in the first fucking place? The dialogue is absolute shit. It's not even shit in terms of people don't talk like this, people wouldn't say shit like this. It's shit in terms of the line delivery. Like, these actors deliver the lines in such painful ass ways. This wasn't really a good relationship going on with the director and the actors in this one. I just feel that watching this thing. This movie is an hour and a half, and it took me 4 hours, legitimately 4 hours to finish watching this shit. I had to stop it every few minutes because I noticed something else that was really stupid. I got irritated, I got bored, I wanted to go watch something else. I stopped this movie legitimately for a half hour just to watch porn. Now, if the porn that I'm watching has better production value and slightly better acting than this movie, which doesn't have porn, no naked Halle Berry, it just has Halle Berry walking around in this really ridiculous, unpractical outfit where her mask and her cowl make her look like Jimmy Neutron and Invader Zim fucked and had a head baby. If the porn that I'm watching is way better than that, then you should know what this movie is, and I can't even talk about it anymore. If you like this movie, God bless you. I really do respect your commitment to I just respect you. And I can't watch this movie ever again. I don't want to. I hate myself. I'm angry at myself. I want to punch myself in the face for watching this movie. If anybody comes up to me and wants to suggest that we watch Catwoman as a fun way to pass the time, I'm probably gonna punch you in the face too. I fucking hate this movie on every single level imaginable, and I'm just done. And I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. You know what Catwoman's gonna get. I'm not gonna pull any punches. I don't hide my feelings. I say what I feel. Catwoman is a gigantic pile of cat shit. Well, it can't possibly get any worse, right? Shit. Like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel.